And I'm Gabby, and today our professional learning team are going to be presenting on the topic of knots.
Knots are a crucial part of the outdoors and are involved in a heap of different complex activities.
From canoeing to climbing, knot tying enables a lot of different people to experience the outdoors.
Throughout our presentation, we're going to be covering the history and the importance of knots, as well as teaching you a few knots you can use when working in the outdoors. Before we begin learning these knots, it's important to understand why we as outdoor educators need to have a solid understanding of knots. Under the Australian Adventure Activities Standards, adventure activities must be led by people with appropriate skills, knowledge and experience. This would certainly include having an in-depth understanding of knots if those are being used in an activity. Under the Good Practice Guides for climbing, abseiling and challenge ropes courses, leaders must be capable of selecting an appropriate knot and having the experience to tie this knot safely.
Alrighty, so today we're going to look at some canoeing and kayaking knots. We're going to look at our bowline, our clove hitch and our highwayman's hitch. What we want to do with our bowline is loop it through. Our long end we want to flip over so we have a nice loop. Our little tail end we're going to poke through the hole, wrap it around our big tail and then thread it back through our loop and then pull it tight. So that is our bowline. Looking at our bowline, we want to make sure that it isn't going to slip off anything. So say with this handle, we don't want to loop it just around here. We want to thread it through here so that it's more secure.
If we were to do our bowline just around the handle and not loop it through the rope, it would just fall off.
So looking at that again, our big tail loops over, our little tail goes through the hoop, wraps around our big tail and then threads back through, and then we pull our big tail tight. We can also add added safety features via a Yosemite's bowline or a clove hitch or a half hitch to this one. With our loops, when we do our bowline, we'll see that it goes over then under, or we can make it go under then over. So this factor right here will determine which way our tail goes. So at the moment, if it's under then over, our middle tail can go over like so. And it comes and forms a nice little bowline. However, if we don't pay attention to which way we're looped and we go under, around and through, we don't particularly make a nice, neat, safe bowline. So we've got to make sure that we pay attention to which way our loop is going. So if it goes under then over, we can go over through the hoop like so. We've got our little hole here and then we've got our little rabbit. So our rabbit is going to come up through the hole, wrap around the tree and thread back through and pull it tight. So that's a nice little saying that we can remember.
Some key factors about the bowline is that it is a quick, end-of-the-line attachment knot, which is also safe with a Yosemite's knot or a half hitch knot for climbing. The clove hitch is quite an easy tension knot, however, if we do not place the rope correctly, it is more likely to fall apart. The rope is first looped over the post, then looped back on top of itself, before going around the post again. It is important to make sure the tail end goes underneath the cross section. To secure the knot, pull the ends tight. We can always add half hitches to our rope to remove excess tail and to make our clove hitch secure. Another way to do the clove hitch is if you have a post, where you can loop the clove hitch over the top of the post. You can do this by creating an infinity knot where the long ends are looped under the cross section. Then the two loops are folded together and looped over the post. It is important to pull tight on the ends of the rope to secure the knot. So to recap, we make sure that we loop the knot over, then under,
Close our infinity loop, place it on and pull it tight.
Important factors of the clove hitch is that it is quick, in the midline of a rope, and it is a secure knot. highwaymans is our next knot that we're going to focus on. It is a towing knot while also being a safety release knot. This knot allows us to tow other boats. To create our highwaymans, we loop a bight underneath the thwart. We use our big bight to bite our big tail, creating a smaller bight. We then use our little bight that we have created to bite our little tail. We then pull our big tail tight, securing our knot. This is our highwaymans, which allows us a safety release. When we secure our highwaymans, we want to make sure that our tail is long enough for us to grab, as our big tail is pulling a boat behind us. And we want to make sure we have a quick safety release. For our safety release, it is okay to have a bit of a tail. However, we want to make sure that our little bight isn't huge. If our safety loop is quite large, it impacts how we are able to safety release from a tow. The longer our loop, the more time and effort it takes to pull, causing impacts in our safety and that of others in our group. So I like to remember this by saying big bight bites big tail, little bight bites little tail.
Nice little bunny ear here. If it's too small, it might accidentally come loose to start off with. So once it's here, we grab our tail in the case of emergency and we need to release our tow. We pull and it'll all come loose. So we have successfully gone over our bowline, our clove hitch and our highwaymans. I'm just going to go pass it on to Gabby.
Hey everyone, Gabby back here, and today I'm going to be presenting on 3 different knots that are commonly used in climbing, abseiling and high ropes courses. The first knot that we're going to learn today is the alpine butterfly. For each of my knots, I'm going to begin with a demonstration before breaking down the steps. So here we go. There's our alpine butterfly. So what you want to do is start by wrapping the rope around your hand 3 times. You're going to take the rope that's closest to your thumb and move it to the outside of your fingertips, and then do that again with the next piece of rope. At this stage, you'll then pull the rope that's closest to your fingertips through the 2 loops and pull. This is going to create that butterfly shape, and you'll know you've done it properly if you can see that the 2 wings are on the same side of the rope coming out. The alpine butterfly is such a great knot to learn as it has a variety of uses. It can be used to hang gear up at the top of a tent, it can be used as one of the parts of a truckie's hitch, and it can also be used to isolate sections of damaged rope as seen on the left. There is another way to tie the alpine butterfly that is quite a bit safer, as it doesn't require you to do this step of wrapping the rope around your hand, because if tension is then applied to this rope, it's going to cause quite a big injury. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with your bight of rope. I'm going to call it a snowman. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my snowman a head, then I'm going to give him a body, twisting it round. I'm going to be holding onto the outsides of the rope, not putting my hands or fingers between, passing the snowman's head through his legs and then back through his body. Pulling tight, this creates our alpine butterfly again, double checking that the wings of the butterfly are on the same side. Perfect. For the next knot, we're going to learn 2 variations of the figure of 8 knot. We're going to learn the figure of 8 on a bight and the figure of 8 rethread. In climbing, a figure of 8 knot can be used on a bight or to attach a climber to a harness through a figure of 8 rethread. So this is our figure of 8 on a bight. You start with your bight of rope. So just to break that one down, starting with your bight held out in front of you, going to wrap it around, pull through that top loop, and how you know you've got your figure of 8 perfectly done is you'll be able to count 2, 2, 2, 2 and 2. So always add up to 10 at the end. Okay. And now to our figure of 8 rethread. So again, you should be able to count up 2, 2, 2, 2 and 2 equals 10 at the end of your figure of 8 rethread. Just go over the extra steps of that. What I did to begin with is to make a figure of 8, making sure I leave a lot of tail length, and then you'll usually attach this part to a harness before you thread the rope back down, following the same way that the original rope goes. There we go. To recap some of the information I've mentioned in the previous videos, our figure of 8 knots are typically used as a stopper knot. This is to prevent the end of a rope from slipping out of a retaining device, such as a pulley, and also to tie around a closed object, such as a harness loop. And now onto our next knot, which is also another variation of a figure of 8 knot. This one is known as the bunny ears knot, or also as the double figure of 8 loop. Okay, this is the bunny ears knot. So this knot is very similar to our figure of 8 knot. In fact, that's how we're going to begin it. So on a bight of rope, making sure you leave a lot of room, starting with a figure of 8. The next step from this part is to slide the top of the rope back down out, so you can put your fingers through this loop and pull all the way down. This knot will finish with the 2 bunny ears as shown. So our bunny ears knot is usually used to attach rope to 2 anchor points. However, it can also be used as an improvised seat. To finish off the bunny ears or figure of 8 knots, there is an extra knot that can be added. Okay. Once you tie a bunny ears or figure of 8 knot, it's important that with the remainder of the tail that you tie a stopper knot for added safety. So how you tie a stopper knot is, I like to imagine it like a little possum. The possum runs around the top of the tree, it runs around the base, and then it climbs back up the tree, pulling through. So then you'll have a shorter tail and also a bit more safety from the knot slipping. So the benefit of tying a bunny ears knot over a figure of 8 knot is it allows for 2 anchor points. This spreads the weight on the anchor points, which means that the rope is probably going to have a longer life and suffer less damage. However, some people criticise the bunny ears knot, as if one loop fails, it can create enough shock that the other loop can fail. So how can your new knowledge of knots aid in students' learning? Well, firstly, knots allow for the safe participation in rope activities, and rope activities have been found to have a wide range of benefits for students. A study by Caudle and others found that rope course activities improve self-efficacy through mastery experiences. Furthermore, they increase trust, teamwork and communication of young people. In this way, rope activities also address the Victorian curriculum by building on the personal and social capability framework. To bring an end to the climbing knots section of this video, this is an example of an activity where all 3 knots we have learnt are used. This is a milk crate stacking challenge at a local school camp in which 2 teams of students work together to build the tallest tower of milk crates. A climber is secured by a harness attached to a carabiner on the end of a bunny ears knot. This climber is hoisted into the air by their pull team through a pulley system. Each member of the pull team is attached to the other end of the rope via a carabiner on an alpine butterfly knot. The last member of the pull team can't be attached via an alpine butterfly as it's at the end of the rope. Therefore, a double figure of 8 on a bight is used. And that brings us to the end of my section. To conclude, we've learnt 3 climbing knots. These were the alpine butterfly, bunny ears, figure of 8 on a bight, and also the figure of 8 rethread. Hope you've enjoyed. I'm now going to pass the baton on to Jess.
Hey everybody, Jess back here, ready to present to you 3 different knots that can be used when you're camping in the outdoors. Wow, it's so windy out here! Quick, let's go get out away from the trees. Now that we're back inside, the first knot that we're going to learn today is a slip knot.
A slip knot is a quick releasable stopper knot that can be tied in multiple different ways to help with stopping the end of a rope to tie it shorter or helping attach to different obstacles such as a tent. With this in mind, we're going to tie 2 different types of slip knots today with different tie-offs to see how we can use them in the outdoors. A slip knot is a clear midline knot, so we're going to move away from the tails for this one. Now to start the knot, you're going to grab either the left or the right side and pull it over the opposite side to create a loop. It doesn't matter which side you start with, but the side you start with is going to dictate the next step. From here, we're going to pinch our fingers through the center of the knot, noticing which side we've pulled over. We're then going to grab the rope that is on top of the loop and pull it back through the center of the circle. So we'll know when we've completed our knot because we'll see a clear loop followed through on one side, and on the other side it looks like there's a bit of a stopper knot there. You'll notice that when we pull the clear line through, the knot will quickly release. Okay, let's rewind. Alrighty, quick recap. Loop, hand through, pull under, tighten to secure, and pull to release. Now that we've got a handle on our basic slip knot, we're going to move on how we can tie this off to make it even more secure. Okay, so we're going to start with our basic slip knot. Give that a try if you like. From here, we're going to adjust that loop that we had earlier to make it as long as we possibly can to make adjusting it even more simple. Once we've made the loop even longer, we're going to make a half hitch, as demonstrated here. Okay, so to start off, we're going to make a capital P or a 4 with the end of the line of the rope, and we're going to do this without the slip knot to start off with, just so we can get the hang of it. Just like when we're making our slip knot, we're going to grab the end that is on top and we're going to tuck it through that circle, pulling it tight to secure. Alright, let's watch that one more time and then we're going to try it with the slip knot. Grab our rope, make a 4, tuck it round the back, through and pull. Beautiful. Now once you've got the hang of that, let's make our slip knot and then we can demonstrate again with our 4 around the back and pull, this time making sure that that pull is underneath the knot that we've already created with our slip knot so it's nice and tight and secure. Additionally, we can tie it over both ends of the rope coming out of the slip knot to make sure both ends are tied off and we can't actually slip back through. Awesome. Now let's transfer this slip knot over to a pole so we can learn how to use this to tighten or lengthen a rope, to tie a shelter, or maybe just use it as a clothes hanging line. Here is a demonstration before we go through our step-by-step. So the first thing that you might notice is the clove hitch from Kristen's video that I have used to attach my line. From here, all I'm trying to do is tighten the rope and secure some tension. So to do that, what we're doing is we're going to grab the rope, pull it nice and tight along the structure that we're tying along, and then we're going to loop it behind, creating a hook. We can then do as we did once we made our original loop and tuck the rope under and through the other end, grabbing a bite of rope and tightening and securing it, adjusting it to the length and tightness that you need before we can tie that off. You'll notice a clear 4 being made to tie our half hitch, tucking that around and through the 4, pulling it nice and tight to secure. I recommend doing 3 of these, and then to make sure that it is complete circuit and not just a hitch, we're going to actually connect that at the end with a carabiner. Here we can see another example of a tie-off with a slip knot and a few half hitches. And here we have it, folks, the slip knot, and you've seen that used in 2 different variations for a few different uses there. Now, the main use that you might see this is in combining 2 trees to make a shelter. So just be careful if we're using it between trees that we are assessing those trees and making sure that they can hold weight. We need to be really careful when we're in the outdoors about what we're tying our ropes to and how we're using them to make sure we also don't damage the trees as well or the nature around us. Now, just a quick recap. The slip knot is a quick releasable knot, adjustable and can be tensioned, and a safe option when used in conjunction with half hitches, especially for being weighted. The next knot we're going to learn is the overhand knot, which is a quick, effective, versatile and easy to learn knot that most individuals will start to learn on their knot journey. So this is an end of line knot. So we're going to start with the end of the knot and we're going to make a loop similar to how we did with our slip knot and tuck that through. However, this is all we do for that knot. Keep it nice and tight, give it a twist. This is the type of knot that most people will use when they talk about, if you don't know knots, tie lots. We can also tie it on top of a structure just to keep it nice and secure. You can see that tie lots method here where I twist one over and then out to the other end. Here is our quick recap of the overhand knot. It is also called an EDK, also known as a European death knot, just because of the simplicity of it. Most people used to think that if we tie one knot, it doesn't actually have much security or versatility and it isn't very helpful. However, that has since been proven wrong, but the name likes to stick. We like our little EDK. The next knot I'm going to teach you, our very last knot for today, is the box knot. Now the box knot is actually a lashing and it is a crucial part of it, that is the overhand knot that we were just taught. So this will be a crucial relearning of that as long as implementing some new skills. So this lashing actually works to combine two items. Realistically, you want these items crossed over each other, as you can see here. We're going to start off by picking the bottom object and we're going to tie our overhand knot onto that just to secure it. You'll notice that there is a handful of rope that is left on the end. This will be useful for later. So once we've tied it on, we're going to put the end to the side and then we're going to use this end of the rope to make a box shape as shown on the screen. We're going to go over, under, keeping those top ropes nice and close together and pulling the rope tight through every single passover. Now, you can do 2, 3 or 4 passovers for this to keep it nice and neat and tidy. As you can see here, I have 4 passovers. And then from here, I'm going to grab that rope, make sure it's pulled nice and securely, and then actually wrap it around between those 2 poles, pulling all those ropes that we've just lashed around the poles nice and tight together. You might notice that there is a lot of tension on that rope because pulling it nice and tight and secure is going to help keep those poles together. Once I get to the end, I'm going to use that overhand knot to tie these 2 ropes together. So I make a loop with the 2 ropes, cross them over and pull them nice and tight. As we discussed before, the tie lots method is always helpful, and as you can see there, the poles don't move. Just a quick recap, our box knot is a lashing that is useful to tie 2 objects together. So why do we learn these knots? And why should students learn these knots? Safe knots allow for participation and recreation in camps safely, whilst improving self-efficacy through mastery of experience, as discussed by Gabby earlier in this video. Camping and the Victorian curriculum are also interlinked, as the VCAA talks about challenge activities and how proper safety, and especially the use of knots and other camping activities, can assist in challenging students socially, behaviourally and psychologically.
Hey guys, I hope that you learned a lot and that solidifies your learning of knots around camping, and you're going to be using those next time you're outdoors. Alrighty.
And that brings us to the end of our video. If you click this link, it'll take you to our final learning activity, and that is a test to recall your knowledge of the knots that we have taught throughout this video. Thank you all for watching. We hope you've enjoyed. Bye!
have successfully gone over our bowline, our clove hitch and our highwayman. So I'm just going to go pass it on to Gabby.
Recording. Hey everybody.
It's Sunny.
I just realized there's like a
That's me, I'm just stuck in the side.
Presenting on the topic of knots. I just added in the word learn at the end.
You know
Did
what?
it flow okay?
We got it. Do you want to?
Yeah.
It's playing?
Yeah.
Yes. Sweet. Okay, this is gonna look good. I'm gonna put some music over the top too, surely.
Yeah, definitely. Otherwise it's quite awkward.